Alright, so let's go ahead and let's turn this into a sunset shot. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to turn on our environment objects here, just the main buildings, just so I have something to reference. And then I'm going to go into a front view here, and I'm just going to draw a big plane. And then I'll switch to the top view, and I want to pull this way into the background. Now what we're going to do with this is we're going to map our sky texture onto this object. So I'll go back into our camera view here, and I'll just move this into position just right about here for now. And next we'll need to pick a texture to use as our sky. Now I've already picked one out, so let me go ahead and load that up. And can take a look at this. And this is just a photo that I took on my honeymoon in Maui. So we'll use this as our sky, and I'm going to assign it onto the plane, make it self-illuminated 100%, and I'm going to display it in the viewport. Now the next thing we'll need to do is put a UV map on here, and we're going to fit it to that image. And now we'll just scale it up and move it until it works in our scene. Now you'll notice this line right here, that's the horizon for our camera. And ideally what we should do is match where the horizon is with our photo's horizon. But since we don't actually see the horizon in our render, it's completely covered by these buildings, we have a little bit more freedom. I wouldn't recommend this for every situation, but we can probably get away with raising it a little bit higher so that we can get a little bit more of these colors in the sky to come in. So try something like that. And we can also make this a little bit smaller as well. What we want to do is just make sure that we don't ever see the seams here. So it's got to be covered by this building and go out of frame here. So it looks like we've got that. So what I'll do now is I can turn the environment off, and since we don't really need the sky dome here, what I'll do is I'll just put our new background onto this layer. So we can start rendering out okay. Alright, and so the next thing we should do is probably get the reflection passes that we're going to need. So I'll turn on our environment main and our stone edge that we were using from before, and what we'll do is make the sky dome invisible to camera, and now we can render a reflection pass and get just the sky. And here's the result. So we're getting just the reflection of the sky rendering here. So we'll save this out, and we'll just call it reflection sky. And now we should do the same thing again, but just the mountains this time. Okay, so we'll turn off the sky dome, turn mountains on, and we'll make it invisible to camera, and we'll render that. And here's the result of that render. So it's just the mountains reflecting the water, and it's also, because the mountains are on a cylinder that goes all the way around, it's also reflecting a little bit in this window, which is fine. So we'll change this and call it mountain. So let's see, the next thing we should probably do is get another ambient pass that we can work with. So let's go ahead and we'll turn on our sky dome from our daytime scene, and let's adjust this. We'll make it 3, and for a sunset sort of shot, let's try uh, something maybe along these lines. And then we'll render out a RLA file to floating point again and adjust it in the comp until it's the way we want it. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll render one of these out. So I'm just going to go to the correct folder here, and I'll change this to RLA, and this will be classes that we have so far. Okay, and we'll get these sort of in order here. We'll go with the sky first, the ambient, and then the reflections. So let's connect this up. So there's our sky, and we'll get the environment on here. And I'll hook these up a little bit later because we're going to need to connect a few more things in here first. So the ambient light is still much too bright, so let's bring it down a little bit. And let's put the mountains in, and we don't need to re-render those because we've already got them from our daytime scene. So let's take these and we'll stick them in. And obviously they're also much too bright, so let's turn those down. And let's also give them sort of a blue tint here. Maybe something like that. And our sky reflection should go first. So let's go ahead and put that on now. We can move this stuff around. So remember, we're going to need to put a luma keyer on here. Okay. And we'll do the same thing for the mountain reflection. But now our mountains are really bright still, so we'll have to turn that down. So let's go ahead and do that. Grab a color correct, and I'll put it in here. And actually, you know what? We need to do one other thing first. We've luma keyed this, but if we look at the alpha, it's very, very dim. We need to make this full white. So what I'll do is I'm going to put the brightness contrast in here and affect only the alpha and turn up the gain on that. So now we've got the mountain in there, and it just needs to be darker and have a little bit of a blue tint. Okay. Now we've also got from our night scene So let's merge this on, and remember to turn down the alpha gain, and we can now adjust this. Okay, actually I think the ambient in this scene can come down a little bit more. And we'll bring the mountains down just a little bit more as well. Okay, and I actually don't like having this window lit up for this shot, so let's go ahead and take it out. It's rendered in our lamp pass here, so let's just get rid of it. What I'll do is I'll put a brightness contrast on here, and I'm going to just draw a mask that masks out this area. And then what we can do is just take the gain all the way down, and it's gone. And it might also be nice to put a little bit of life back in this and put that light from the door back in here for this. So let's get that as well. Let's bring that door, make a little bit of room here. We'll merge this on. Same thing, I'm going to turn the alpha gain down on this. We'll need the color correct here. Take the saturation down a little bit. Okay. And we've got the same window problem. So let's copy this, paste it, and we'll use that same mask again. So both of these are using this same mask, they're just sharing it. Alright, so we've got pretty much everything in here, but let's make a few adjustments still. I think our scene's still a little bit too bright. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit more, and I'm actually going to tint it a little bit more blue. And I also think that our door light here could get a little bit more saturated. Maybe something like that. Our lamp, not too bad. Let's bring the mountains down a little bit darker again. Alright, so what we can do now is the mountains against the sky is creating sort of this harsh line here, and what we can do is sort of recreate a phenomenon in real life where silhouetted objects have light that wraps around the edges of them. So we can set that up pretty easily in our comp here. So let's go ahead and do that. What we'll do is we're going to take the furthest thing back, the sky, which is the brightest part, and what I'm going to do is grab a blur node and I'll just connect it up here, and I'm just going to blur this pretty heavily. So I'll pull this back down here, and what we need to do is right before our reflections here, I'm going to merge this back onto our scene. So what happens is everything looks fine, and then we're merging the sky back on top, and at the moment it's not working. But we need to set up some masks that we can use. So what we need is the edge of the mountains, but we also need the edge of the buildings here because we're going to want it to wrap around these edges as well. So we need to create a mask for that. And what we can do is let's take a merge and just stick it down here, and we'll put the mountain in it and we'll put the environment in it. and if we look at the alpha, that's exactly what we want. So we've got something that we can use as a mask now. So I'm just going to pull it up here, and we'll select this merge, and we're going to put a bitmap mask on this, and we'll pipe this into it. So now we're sort of getting somewhere, but what we want to do is invert this and then soften the edge of it. You can see it's now bleeding over the edges of our mountains, but our sky is all blurry still. Sort of wrapping light over the edge. Now it's a little bit strong right now. I'm going to set it to screen, and I'm going to bring it down maybe somewhere in here. And if we want to adjust this, we can just select this first mask now, and then we can just drag it and find what we like. Something like that's good. So I think the only thing we're really missing is we don't have this light bulb in there, and we had rendered out that pass before. So let's bring it in. So there it is. And I'll just put it right in here. So we'll merge it on. And remember, we're going to need a luma keyer for this. So I'll just borrow that one and paste it in. Now it's hard to really see it here, but after we go back and re-render everything, it'll show up better. We're going to re-render everything to targas just like before. So I'm going to make just another little adjustment here. Should be a little bit darker still. Okay. So let's go back into Max, and we'll render out the different passes and by adjusting the lights that we need, like the ambient we're turning down by 0.55. So I'll go back into Max and re-render the passes to target files using these amounts. Alright, so I actually went into Max and I rendered out some of these passes again for our sunset. And so we've got now an ambient, door light, and a lamp light. Okay, so we can just go in and start replacing this stuff. So there's our ambient, and we need to make sure that we pipe it into there as well. So let's bring that in here and into there. And we can take off the gain that we were doing on that one. And then we can come back into the lamp, replace it, do the same thing, take the gain off, select the door, and then I'll do the same thing here. We can take the gain off of that, and when we put it all together, there we go. Last thing I think I want to do is add just a little bit of glow on here. So what I'll do is, there's our light. I'm going to put just a glow on this layer. And let's put it back into the scene. And maybe something like this. Okay. And so there you have it. Here's our sunset scene. So at this point, we've set up a daylight, a night, and a sunset shot, and we were doing it using only the necessary layers to get to be able to make the look that we want. And so at this point, what I would do is just go back into each of those max files, turn on all the necessary layers and just render everything back out for the final renders. And so that would be the final step, and I'll go ahead and I'll do. So here is the final comp for the daytime light rig. So we've got the sky, mountains, ambient key light, reflection of the sky, reflection of the mountains. We reused the mountains from the daytime shot and just color corrected it down. Then we've got just the ambient light on the environment, the lamp, the door, uh, the lamp self-illumination object, and the two reflections. And here's the nighttime shot. And for this one, we put the stars on the back, put the sky on top of that. Mountains, again, were from the daytime render and just color corrected. The ambient light, the moon, the lamp, the door, the reflection on the water of both the mountains and the sky. And then, once again, the light bulb and the window and some low-lying fog. So day, sunset, and at night. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this DVD, and thanks for watching.